Emily had never expected to find herself in such a quiet seaside town. Narrow streets with peeling paint, the scent of salt and fresh bread, and lanterns flickering in the evening glow made the town feel timeless. She walked along the beach, letting the cool sand slip between her toes, listening to the waves' gentle rhythm. Tonight was no ordinary night. A rare midnight eclipse was about to occur. Kyle had grown up here. The town, the lighthouse, and the endless ocean were all part of him. Tonight, however, it felt alive in a new way, vibrating with an unseen energy. Leaning against the lighthouse railing, he watched the horizon, feeling a strange pull in his chest, a whisper that something extraordinary was about to happen. Emily spotted him from a distance. He seemed to look beyond the sea, beyond the world itself. Something about him made the air feel charged, as if the town had paused just for this moment. "Beautiful sky tonight," she whispered. "It's even more beautiful tonight," he replied, calm and certain. "It feels like anything could happen in one night." Their eyes met, and the world faded around them. The sea, the sand, even the people gathering on the beach became a blur. It was just them, standing at the edge of something infinite. They walked together, talking about the tides, books, dreams, and life's quiet mysteries. With every word, every glance, they felt a connection that was impossible to ignore. The eclipse was approaching, and with it, the night that would change everything. The horizon darkened as the first shadow of the eclipse stretched across the moon. Emily and Kyle stood near the lighthouse, the air thick with anticipation. The town had gathered along the beach, their whispers blending with the waves, but the two of them felt as if they were alone in the universe. Kyle turned to Emily, his eyes reflecting the dim silver of the moon. "Do you feel it?" he asked. "Yes," she whispered, her fingers brushing against his, like the world is holding its breath. Time slowed, the wind softened, the ocean waves became a quiet hum, as if nature itself was waiting for the moment to come. And then, as the clock neared midnight, everything aligned, the moon, the shadow, and the silent rhythm of their hearts. When the clock struck 12, their lips met. The kiss was immediate, electric, and all-consuming. For a heartbeat, the world ceased to exist. The sand beneath them, the waves crashing at the shore, even the people on the beach, they all vanished. There was only them, intertwined, bound by something they could not yet name. When they pulled apart, a strange warmth lingered between them, like an invisible thread connecting their hearts. Neither spoke, but both knew that this was no ordinary encounter. The eclipse had done more than unite them in a single moment. It had changed the course of their lives. As they walked back along the shoreline, side by side, they could feel the subtle pull of that invisible bond. Every step, every glance, every shared smile now carried weight, a hint of a connection deeper than passion or chance. They didn't yet understand the full meaning of what had just happened, but they would. The morning after the eclipse, Emily woke with a strange heaviness in her chest. It wasn't sadness, more like a lingering echo of the night before, a pull she couldn't name. Across town, Kyle felt the same inexplicable warmth, a quiet vibration beneath his skin. As the day passed, subtle signs of the bond revealed themselves. When Emily smiled at a stranger, Kyle felt a rush of joy. When he hesitated over a decision, she felt a shadow of unease settle in her stomach. At first, it scared them. They barely knew each other, yet the invisible thread connecting them was undeniable. By midday, they met again on the beach.
Their conversation was light, yet each glance carried an unspoken understanding. "Do you feel it too?" Emily asked, hesitating. Kyle nodded slowly. "Something ties us together. I don't know why, but I know it's real." They walked in silence for a while, letting the wind and waves speak for them. Neither needed words to understand the depth of the connection. Every heartbeat, every thought, every subtle emotion was mirrored, shared, across a distance that should have separated them. It was exhilarating and terrifying. The eclipse had done more than give them a single night of passion. It had woven their fates together, setting the stage for a love that would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. By sunset, they sat on the sand, shoulders touching, feeling the invisible threads hum between them. It was a quiet promise that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. And in that simple closeness, the first true warmth of love began to blossom.
The days following the eclipse felt different. Emily noticed it first in small ways. A sudden pang of worry when Kyle was delayed. A strange warmth when she thought of him. Kyle, too, felt her emotions like ripples across the ocean. Joy, frustration, even fleeting sadness. At first, it was unsettling. How could two people barely acquainted feel each other so deeply? They began to test it quietly. When Emily hesitated to make a decision about visiting a nearby town, Kyle felt an inexplicable tug at his chest, urging patience. When Kyle faced an important choice about work, Emily sensed the tension in her own body, though she didn't know why. By the weekend, they met again at the lighthouse, the place where it had all begun. Sitting side by side, legs brushing, they laughed softly at minor jokes and stories. Every shared glance carried a deeper weight now, an unspoken understanding that they were no longer entirely their own. This this connection, Emily said, her voice barely above the whisper of the waves. It's like we're part of each other's lives, whether we want to be or not. Kyle nodded. It's more than coincidence. I don't know how it works, but I know it's real, and I don't want it any other way. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. As they watched the waves lap at the shore, neither spoke. Words were unnecessary. Every smile, every small touch, every quiet moment reinforced the invisible thread binding them. By the time the stars began to appear, both Emily and Kyle understood one undeniable truth. The eclipse had not just changed a night, it had changed the course of their lives. And whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their hearts intertwined in ways that defied explanation. As the days passed, Emily and Kyle began to notice the weight of their connection. It was no longer just subtle warmth or shared joy. It carried responsibility, emotions that sometimes felt overwhelming. A moment of frustration on Kyle's part left Emily uneasy, even though she couldn't yet understand why. When Emily doubted herself or worried about work, Kyle felt a strange tightness in his chest, a reflection of her turmoil. One afternoon, Emily received unexpected news, a brief assignment in another town. She hesitated, unsure whether to leave. Kyle sensed her uncertainty before she spoke, feeling an invisible pull that made his heart ache. "You don't have to go," he said softly when they met on the lighthouse deck that evening. I feel your worry. Maybe it's silly, but it's real." Emily looked at him, her eyes wide. "It's not silly. I feel you too. It's like we can't be apart without noticing it somewhere inside us." They sat in silence, listening to the waves, trying to reconcile the joy of their bond with the pressure it brought.
Even in conflict, they discovered a new depth to their feelings. Every argument, hesitation, or misunderstanding became a way to explore and understand each other more fully. By nightfall, the town was quiet. Stars reflected in the water, and the invisible thread between them pulsed gently, a reminder that distance, doubt, and uncertainty could not break what the eclipse had bound. Their love, tested by the very bond that connected them, was growing stronger, quietly, inevitably, and irreversibly.
By now, Emily and Kyle had grown accustomed to the subtle hum of the connection between them. It was no longer frightening. It was familiar, comforting, and oddly empowering. Every morning, Emily woke feeling a hint of Kyle's presence, as if he were there even when he wasn't. And Kyle noticed the smallest fluctuations in her mood and instinctively knew when she needed reassurance. One evening, they walked along the beach, the tide brushing against their feet. Kyle paused, turning to Emily with a soft smile. "Do you ever think about what this means? Not just the eclipse, this bond, that we're tied together?" Emily nodded, her fingers brushing his. "I think about it all the time, and honestly, I wouldn't trade it for anything. It makes everything more real, more alive." They shared a quiet laugh, the kind that came from deep understanding. The magical thread had shifted from a mysterious force to a guiding presence in their lives. It allowed them to anticipate each other's needs, comfort each other in moments of doubt, and celebrate joys as if they were one. Small, everyday moments became extraordinary. A shared glance across a crowded street, a brush of hands while preparing dinner, the silent comfort of knowing the other was thinking of them, all became proof of the bond that eclipsed ordinary love. By nightfall, they sat on a familiar rock near the lighthouse, watching the reflection of stars in the water. Emily leaned her head on Kyle's shoulder, feeling the invisible thread pulse gently between them, a living reminder of the night that had changed everything. They understood now that love, when intertwined with fate, could be both magical and enduring. And in that understanding, they found peace, passion, and a promise of forever.
Weeks turned into months, and the town's quiet rhythm carried on, oblivious to the extraordinary bond that had formed between Emily and Kyle. Yet, for them, every day was alive with the echo of that midnight eclipse, the invisible thread between them pulsing, guiding, and deepening their connection. One evening, they returned to the lighthouse, the place where it all began. The sky was clear, and the first stars appeared, twinkling faintly against the fading sunset. They stood together, hands intertwined, hearts beating as one. "I never imagined life could feel like this," Emily said softly, resting her head against his shoulder. "It's as if we were meant to find each other at that exact moment under the eclipse." Kyle tightened his grip on her hand. "We were. And now, nothing can undo this. Not distance, not fear, not time. We're bound, completely, irreversibly. And I wouldn't have it any other way." The invisible thread hummed, a gentle warmth enveloping them both, affirming the love that had grown from a single extraordinary night. The challenges, doubts, and uncertainties of the past months had only strengthened their bond. They had learned to trust, to care, to feel one another's emotions as intimately as their own. As darkness fell and stars filled the sky, Emily and Kyle kissed, not just in passion, but in quiet reverence for the journey they had shared. Their love was no longer just a feeling, it was a force, an undeniable connection that transcended ordinary experience. Walking back down the beach, side by side,
They knew one truth. The eclipse had been the beginning, not the end. Their lives, forever intertwined, promised adventure, joy, and unwavering love. Whatever the world might bring, they would face it together, bound by the night that had changed everything and by the love that would last a lifetime.